In the name of the Father, and the Son, and Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Today, the first Sunday of the blessed month of Tuba, and the beginning of this month is about, the reading today was about the flight of the Holy Family to the land of Egypt, fleeing from King Herod, who tried to destroy the child. And many lessons we can reflect upon in this passage of today, but we will today reflect on the idea about fleeing what is evil. The Lord Christ definitely could have destroyed Herod, and here the battle will be between divinity and a man who is like so weak. But again, God is teaching us a principle that it is better for us as human that we do not confront evil or try to argue with it or try to win the battle on this kind of level of fighting. There are multiple evils that we need to flee from, and for different reasons. The first kind of evil is the evil of immorality. St. Paul was instructing his disciple Timothy, who is a bishop already, and saying to him, flee youthful lust, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Even though he was speaking with a bishop, but he still is instructing him to flee from youthful lusts. And youthful lust is not necessarily related to the age of being young or being youth. This kind of lust or this kind of movement inside the flesh towards immorality is something that will continue as much as we live in the flesh. Assuming that I can conquer this sin just by being married or by being old is an assumption that is not true. We have a lesson in the life of Joseph, the son of Jacob, Joseph the pure and the chaste. The only way for him to flee from evil is to run away. There is no way he could have stood in front of the woman and keep arguing with her. Unfortunately, we do not do like Joseph. We tend to trust ourselves and think that I can watch something that's impure, and I can put myself in a situation that's tempting, and I can flirt with what is evil and what is immoral, and I think of myself that I'm old enough, I'm strong enough, that I can run away in right time. This right time in our estimation might not be exactly what God intended for us to do. The best thing is to run from the beginning. So the first thing we need to run away always from is the sin of immorality. We are surrounded with many things around us that push us towards this kind of sin. In your phone and over the internet, how easy it is that even if you are searching for something that's innocent, that you find something immoral. And unless you run away from it at the first sight, then we might be taken into this sin and being addicted to it. The second evil we should flee from is being in a bad company. The St. Paul instructs the Corinthians saying, do not be deceived, evil company corrupts good habits. No matter how strong you are in your faith, no matter how much you think you trust yourself, bad company will always corrupt good habits. Sometimes we get engulfed in relationships that we think that is going to be safe. I know God and I am there to help. I know this person or those people are not really the best, but meanwhile I know that I can teach them, I can help them, I can push them towards God. I think it is wiser not to trust ourselves that much and flee always this kind of bad company. But company does not necessarily mean that you know if a person was immoral or living in an evil life. Bad company might include a relationship that might look innocent from far, but once we started, then it starts to evolve into something that's immoral. How easy it is that we feel comfortable around a person from other gender, and I think of myself that he or she is a friend and nothing bad is going to happen. And over time, this kind of feeling starts to develop and evolve into something that makes us again to fall into a great sin. The third sin or evil we should flee is the sin of anger and seeking revenge or being taken by envy. Cain, he started to develop this kind of thoughts against his brother Abel. Abel was accepted and him was not, and God warned him. There is a sin that's at your door, the door of your mind and your heart. This sin is desiring you. If you don't flee from it, it will take over you, and this is exactly what happened. I believe Cain kept thinking about what happened, and his anger started to rise. And this kind of thoughts tend to spin and come and go and come and go until he was taken with it to the point that his emotion was too much in order to control, and he went and he killed his brother. This is a common sin. Someone irritates you or cause you some kind of pain or hurt your feeling. The only way to overcome this kind of feelings is to flee away, not to allow your mind to wander into it and to think about what happened, what you should have said, what you are going to do in the next time. The best way is to flee it altogether. Try to turn your mind away from every remembrance of this. This is the only way you can heal from this kind of sting. The fourth evil we should flee is foolish disputes. St. Paul also instructs his disciple Timothy in his second epistle, saying, avoid foolish and ignorant disputes, knowing that they generate strife. Not every person who comes to you with a question, you should be engaged in the discussion. Sometimes people come to ask because they want to know. And some people, they come to you in order to start a dispute and to challenge your faith and try to prove you wrong. This kind of disputes are called or named by the Bible as foolish disputes. The best way is to avoid them altogether. We can find examples of these foolish disputes over the internet. People are going into this kind of battles back and forth with even people they do not know, assuming that I'm going to convince them to know Christ. And these foolish disputes escalate and become even like we trade some kind of force that's not befitting Christians. And we think that by doing this, I am trying to conquer them or get them to believe in the right way. This doesn't happen. We will be ending up losing our peace at the end of it. So there are multiple evils. We just mentioned 4 of them that we should flee. The second question is why we should flee those kinds of evil. Why it is wiser always to flee and not to confront these evils. The first reason is that because we are not stronger than the temptation. We have to understand this very well. No matter how old you are, how rooted you are in your faith, how much you know, how much you trust yourself, we are not stronger than the temptation. The book of Proverbs tells us, for she, referring to sin, has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. We are not stronger than King David, who thought of himself in one morning that I can watch over the roof of my palace, a woman is bathing, and nothing is going to happen. And we know the rest of the story. He took her to his house, committed sin with her, and even was tempted to send her husband to war and get killed. All of this happened maybe because at the first sight he did not flee this kind of immoral sin. The second reason we should flee evil, that even if we win the battle, our hearts will be stained with sinful thoughts. What do we gain when we keep entertaining something that's immoral, and then at the end of the day say, I'm not going to do anything that's bad. I'm not going to pursue a relationship outside of my marriage. I'm not going to see someone else. But still, my mind now is obsessed with bad thoughts and images. So even if we win the battle, I'm not to do something wrong. My mind now is stained, and this is something I will have to battle with it for maybe weeks, maybe more. The third reason is why we should flee evil, because we might be trapped from the first experience. People who get addicted and hooked to drugs, they assume that I can have one experience and then I can run away, everything will be okay. What if I get addicted from the first time? What if I kill myself from the first time? Maybe actually the first experience might be the one that's going to knock me like down, and then I cannot stand again on my feet. The fourth reason is avoiding the first step is always much easier than fighting with something that's getting stronger and my will getting weakened. Every exposure to sin makes our will to become weaker and weaker and weaker. We know this, that when we're away from like temptations, sexual temptations over the internet, when we are away from it, we feel stronger to resist it. The more we see, the more we feel like I cannot, even I lose my ability to say no to anything, and now I become like a toy in the hand of this kind of temptation. It's much easier to resist something from the beginning rather than allowing it to become a big deal. It's much easier to take a shoot from the ground rather than trying to take a tree. The last point is what is required in order for us to be able to flee. The first thing is to discern, to be able to discern. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. We all need this. We need to ask God to learn how to be careful and to discern that this is not right. This is the beginning of something that's not going to end up well. This kind of discernments help us to distinguish from the beginning. This is something is not for me, let me run away. No matter again how old we are, how wise we think, how much experience we have, we always need to learn how to discern. Sometimes some of the traps, they look very innocent. A discussion that might start as something that's very innocent and end up with something that I never expected myself to be there. The second virtue needed for us to be able to flee is to acquire humility. Our pride and our ego makes us always to believe that I'm stronger than this kind of temptation. I can deal with it. I can be there till the moment when there's true risk, and then I will run away. This is not humble. We learn the hard way. We learn by testing ourselves, and we know that we cannot stand the temptation. From the beginning, humility will make us to say to ourselves, this is not for me, I cannot stand it, let me run away from it. Humility also will make us to hear and heed advice. People who care about us, they tell us, run away from this, don't stay in it, don't linger in encountering this. And sometimes we think, I know more than the person who is instructing me, I can deal with it. The third virtue needed for us to be able to flee is courage. Joseph, the son of Jacob, he was a courageous man to be able to run from the woman. He left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside, as we hear this in the book of Genesis. He knew that running away might cost him his life, but he still did it. He was courageous enough to tell himself that I cannot be here. The only way for me to be safe is to run away from her, no matter what the consequences will be. The fourth and last virtue needed for us to be able to flee is to be honest with ourselves and call things by their names. I am sure the woman, the wife of Potiphar, kept on telling Joseph, I love you, I love you, I love you. And this word is so much tempting to our ears. But when Joseph talked to her, he told her, how can I do this kind of great wickedness? He was honest enough to call the thing by its name. This is wickedness. What you are asking of me is an evil thing. If we have the honesty to call things by their names, we will be able to flee. But when we call immorality entertainment, when we call cheating people, this is something to be smart. When we call flirting that I'm just like having good time with a friend, when we are deceiving ourselves with these kinds of good names for bad evils, it's very hard for us to flee from them. The lesson for us today, my brethren, is to flee. Every one of us has something that we are tempted with, one way or another. And every one of us is called today to imitate the example of the Holy Family. Run away from evil. May the Lord to grant us wisdom by which we will be able to discern where is evil, where is the trap, and run away from it. And glory be to God forever and ever. Amen.